Loss has a way of stopping us. It halts the momentum we thought we had, interrupts the plans we so carefully made, and forces us to face the silence between what we dreamed and what actually unfolded. Yet within that silence, something extraordinary is happening. Failure is not life closing its doors. It is life handing us a gift, wrapped in unfamiliar paper, asking us to see more deeply, to listen more closely. Success flatters us, but failure refines us. Success whispers comfort, but failure carves out strength, patience, and truth. In the vast orchestra of existence, both triumph and disappointment are movements of the same song, different notes in the same melody. If we dare to look beyond the sting of what we've lost, we will find that nothing was wasted. Every fall, every fracture is a reminder that the universe is still sculpting us. And in that design, nothing is ever broken, only becoming. Failure has this uncanny way of holding up a mirror we never asked to look into. Success doesn't do that. Success is flattering. It makes us feel like we're exactly where we should be, like the choices we've made have lined up perfectly, like the story we tell ourselves about who we are is airtight. But failure wipes away the makeup. It strips off the masks. It drags into the light the things we've been avoiding, the truths we didn't want to admit, the flaws we tried to cover up. Failure says, here you are, unfiltered, no edits, no highlight reel. And it's uncomfortable, sometimes excruciating, to see yourself that raw. But here's the gift. That mirror doesn't lie. It shows us the gap between who we think we are and who we're actually becoming. And if we're brave enough to stare into it, not to turn away, not to flinch, but to really look, what we find isn't weakness. What we find is direction. Think about it. Every time you've failed, hasn't it revealed something to you that success never could? Maybe it showed you that your priorities were out of order. Maybe it revealed that you were chasing a dream that wasn't actually yours. Or maybe it stripped you of ego, so you could see what really matters: people, love, health, presence. Failure shakes you awake when success lulls you to sleep. Here's the paradox. The very thing that feels like it's breaking you is often the thing that's rebuilding you into someone stronger, clearer, more aligned with what you're here to do. Success rarely asks us to change. It validates us, so we stay the same. But failure demands transformation. It says the way you've been doing it isn't working. It's time to grow. It's time to see deeper. And maybe that's why we resist it so much. Because when we're staring into that mirror, we don't just see the external failure. We see ourselves. We see our impatience. We see our fear. We see the ways we cut corners or held back or didn't show up fully. And that stings. But if you can hold that gaze, if you can sit with the discomfort long enough, something shifts. You realize that failure is not life punishing you. It's life pointing you. I want you to think of your last failure, the one that still makes your stomach twist when you think about it. You can call it a mistake, a misstep, maybe even a disaster. But look closer. What did it teach you? Did it show you you're stronger than you thought? Did it reveal who was really in your corner and who wasn't? Did it force you to reimagine, to recalibrate, to redefine what actually matters to you? That's the mirror. That's the truth. That's the gift. Here's the thing. Failure doesn't distort. It clarifies. It strips away the illusions we build around ourselves when we're chasing the applause, the promotions, the recognition. In failure, there is no applause. There's only silence. And in that silence, you hear the voice you've been drowning out. The one that says, this is who you really are. This is what you really want. This is where you're really meant to go. We live in a world obsessed with winning. Everywhere you look, it's about success stories, highlight reels, achievements. But the irony is, the people who have built the most meaningful lives, the ones who carry wisdom in their eyes and strength in their presence, they didn't get there by skipping failure. They got there by facing it, by learning from it, by refusing to look away from that mirror. And maybe that's the invitation for all of us. to stop treating failure like a dead end and start treating it like a reflection, to stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What is this showing me?" Because if you lean in, if you listen, you'll see that failure isn't the enemy. It's the teacher success never could be. So the next time you stumble, the next time you hit the wall, remember this: the mirror is there waiting. You can turn away or you can look. And if you're willing to look, you'll find clarity you never imagined. Because failure doesn't define you, it reveals you. There's something about falling that levels us. You can't fall and keep your pride intact. You can't fall and still pretend you've got it all under control. Falling humbles you. It brings you face to face with your own humanity. And in a world where so much of our energy is spent trying to look strong, polished, and put together, humility can feel like the last thing we want. But it may just be the exact thing we need. When you fail, the ground rises up to meet you, and for a moment it's disorienting. You're not standing where you thought you'd be. The plans you had, the timeline you built, the image you were protecting. It all comes crashing down. And you're left there, sitting in the rubble of expectations. That's the point where most people want to run. They want to get back on their feet as quickly as possible, dust it off, pretend it never happened. But if you rush past that moment, you miss the deeper lesson failure is trying to teach. Because humility is only born in those moments when ego dies. And ego always dies in the fall. That's the gift of it. It reminds us that we're not invincible, not untouchable, not as in control as we thought. It reminds us that we're human, and that's not a weakness, that's the design. Think about the most powerful people you've ever admired, not just for what they achieved, but for how they carried themselves. They probably weren't arrogant, even if they could have been. They probably weren't pretending to be perfect. They had a quiet strength, a presence that made you feel at ease. You know why? Because they've fallen. They've been knocked down enough times to realize they don't have to cling to an image of being untouchable. They learned that strength isn't about pretending you'll never fall, it's about getting back up with humility without losing heart. Humility is what connects us to each other. When we fail, we suddenly realize we're not alone. Because everyone knows what it feels like to lose, to stumble, to be embarrassed, to try something and fall flat. In those moments, we don't just meet our own limits. We meet the shared human experience. We understand compassion more deeply. We see others more clearly. And maybe for the first time, we stop judging because we know what it feels like to be the one on the ground. And here's the twist. Humility doesn't weaken you, it frees you. When you stop pretending to be perfect, you stop wasting energy protecting the illusion. You don't have to posture. You don't have to defend yourself against every little thing. You can admit, yeah, I messed up. Yeah, I don't know everything. Yeah, I need help. And instead of that making you smaller, it actually makes you bigger because people trust realness. They're drawn to authenticity, but you only get there through falling. Success doesn't give you that. Success builds confidence, sure, but failure builds humility, and humility is what gives confidence its weight. Without humility, confidence becomes arrogance. Without humility, success becomes entitlement. Falling balances us. Maybe you've had a moment like that where you thought you were unstoppable, and then life pulled the rug out from under you. At first, it feels like punishment. Like you've been knocked down because you weren't good enough. But then, as the dust settles, you start to realize it wasn't punishment at all. It was perspective. It was life reminding you to stay grounded, reminding you that you don't have to carry the burden of perfection, reminding you that strength isn't about being above failure, it's about being shaped by it. The humility of falling teaches us gratitude too. Because when you've been down, when you've lost, when you've felt that sting, you learn to appreciate the moments of standing tall even more. Success feels different when you know what it took to get there. Victories are sweeter when you know they're not guaranteed. And the people who stood by you when you fell, they become priceless. Falling humbles us into remembering we're not here to dominate life. We're here to participate in it, to learn, to grow, to stumble, to rise. And sometimes the most sacred part of the journey isn't when we're standing at the peak, but when we're on the ground, realizing that even here, especially here, there is wisdom, there is beauty, and there is grace. So, the next time you fall, and you will, don't rush to stand back up just to prove you can. Sit for a moment in the dust, breathe, let yourself feel the sting of it, and then listen for the quiet lesson it's whispering. Because falling is never the end. It's the humbling doorway to a deeper beginning, and that is where real strength is born. When you think about failure, one of the hardest parts isn't the fall itself. It's the silence that comes afterward. That strange stillness when the noise of momentum stops, the calls stop, the opportunities stop, the applause stops, and suddenly you're left in the quiet with nothing but your own thoughts. That silence can feel unbearable. It can feel like life has put you on pause while the rest of the world keeps moving forward without you. It's easy to mistake that silence for emptiness, or worse, for abandonment. But what if that stillness isn't a void at all? What if it's actually the space where the next part of your life is tuning itself? Think about music for a second. A song isn't just sound stacked on sound. It's the pauses, the rests, the spaces between notes that give the melody shape. Without silence, music would just be noise. It's the stillness that makes the sound meaningful, and the same is true of our lives. Failure forces us into that silence. It removes the distractions, the constant noise of achievement and performance, and it leaves us with what's real. It strips everything down until all that's left is you. Your thoughts, your fears, your desires, your truth. And while it feels uncomfortable, it's in that silence that clarity is born. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in human history didn't come from busyness, but from stillness. From someone daring to sit in the quiet long enough to hear what was hidden beneath the noise. Silence is not punishment, it's preparation. It's where your next step begins to take form, even if you can't see it yet. But let's be honest, most of us don't like silence. We run from it. We fill it with distractions, scrolling, consuming, overworking, anything to avoid facing the discomfort of being still. Yet failure doesn't give you that option. When things collapse, when the plans fall apart, silence comes whether you invited it or not. The question is, will you fight it or will you lean into it? Because if you lean in, you'll notice something extraordinary. Silence is not empty. It's full. It's full of lessons, of whispers you couldn't hear before, of truths you didn't want to face. It's in the quiet moments after failure that you start to see what actually matters. Not the surface wins, not the external validation, but the deep currents that make your life meaningful. Sometimes silence teaches us patience. Sometimes it teaches us to listen more than we speak. Sometimes it teaches us to release the things we've been gripping so tightly, the plans we thought were non-negotiable, so we can finally make space for something better. Silence gives us the pause to reset, to reorient, to rebuild with intention instead of just momentum. And here's the thing, you can't learn that from success. Success rarely stops you, it carries you forward. It keeps the noise alive. It fuels the illusion that if you just keep going, you'll find meaning. But failure stops you cold. It puts you in the stillness you've been avoiding, and it asks you to listen. It's like life saying, hold on, sit down, there's something you need to hear before you move again. And if you've ever sat in that silence, really sat in it, you know how it changes you. It's not loud. It's not dramatic, but it's deep. It's where you realize that your worth isn't gone just because your plans failed. It's where you discover that quiet strength you didn't know you had. It's where you start to feel the faint stirrings of a new melody, one that couldn't begin until the last one ended. So maybe failure isn't just the end of something. Maybe it's the pause that makes space for something new to rise. Just like the silence between notes isn't empty, it's what makes the music beautiful. The silence after failure is not wasted time, it's sacred time. It's the universe retuning your life for the next movement in the symphony. And if you can embrace it, if you can breathe in the stillness instead of resisting it, you'll find that the silence isn't the absence of progress, it's the birthplace of it. And that's where the real song of your life begins again. If there's one thing failure does better than anything else, it's that it tests you. It pushes you right up against the edges of what you think you can handle, and then just a little further. And in those moments, when you feel like you've lost more than you can carry, when the weight feels unbearable, something happens. A part of you didn't even know existed begins to emerge. That's resilience. Here's the truth. Success doesn't make you resilient. Success makes you comfortable. It's easy to feel strong when everything is going right, when the doors open, when the recognition flows, when the applause is steady. But resilience is forged in the fire of failure. It's born in the nights you cry yourself to sleep but wake up anyway. It's formed in the mornings when you'd rather stay down but you get up, take one small step, and move forward despite the fear. Think about the strongest people you know. Not the ones with the most polished stories, not the ones who have all the accolades lined up behind them, but the ones who carry a certain weight in their presence. People who walk into a room and you can just feel it. They've been through something. They've seen loss, disappointment, failure, heartbreak. They've been tested, burned, broken open, and yet they're still standing. They have this quiet strength that doesn't shout but resonates. That doesn't come from success, that comes from fire. The fire strips away what's not essential. It burns off the ego, the illusions, the masks we wear to impress the world. Failure forces us to confront the truth about ourselves, not just who we want to be, but who we really are when everything falls apart. And in that process, resilience is shaped. We often think resilience is about bouncing back quickly, like snapping back into shape after life knocks us down. But true resilience isn't about speed, it's about depth. It's not about pretending nothing happened. It's about integrating the pain, the lessons, the struggle, and allowing them to become part of you without letting them define you. Resilience is saying, yes, I've been through hell, but I'm still here. And not only am I here, I'm stronger because of it. It's important to remember that resilience doesn't always look glamorous. Sometimes resilience looks like simply surviving. Sometimes it looks like asking for help. Sometimes it looks like sitting in the dark for a while, letting the grief wash over you, and then, when you're ready, choosing to stand up again. That's resilience. It's not the absence of weakness, it's the courage to move through it. And the beautiful paradox is this: failure, the very thing we fear because it feels like the end, is often the thing that awakens resilience, the very strength we need to begin again. Without the fire, there's no forging. Without the breaking, there's no remaking. History is full of examples. Every visionary, every leader, every artist you admire, they've all walked through the fire. They failed, lost, stumbled, and been broken open. The difference is, they didn't let the fire consume them. They let it shape them. They allowed the resilience born in failure to carry them further than success ever could. And that's the invitation failure extends to you too. When you're in the fire, when it feels like everything is collapsing, you get to decide, will this break me or will this forge me? Will I let this be the end, or will I allow it to burn away what doesn't serve me so I can step into who I was always meant to be? Resilience is not about avoiding the fire. It's about walking through it and discovering that you are far stronger than you ever believed. So the next time life hands you failure, Don't just ask, why me? Instead, ask, what is this fire trying to forge in me? Because on the other side of that pain, there's a version of you waiting, one you couldn't become without the breaking. And that's the gift failure gives that success never will. Resilience isn't learned in victory, it's born in the fire. One of the hardest truths to accept in life is this: we've been conditioned to tie our worth to our achievements. From the time we're kids, we're rewarded for the grades we get, the trophies we win, the accolades we collect. And somewhere along the way, we start to believe the lie that our value as human beings comes from what we do, not from who we are. That's why failure hurts so deeply, because it doesn't just feel like we've lost the game or the opportunity. It feels like we've lost ourselves. It feels personal, like a reflection of our worth. But here's what failure does better than success. It shatters that illusion. When you fail, you're forced to confront the truth that your worth cannot be measured by your latest accomplishment or your biggest mistake. Failure strips you down, and while that stripping is painful, it's also liberating. It reminds you that you were never meant to be defined by achievements in the first place. Think about it. If success defined our value, then what about the moments when we're not succeeding? Does that mean we're less worthy of love, respect, or belonging? Of course not. Yet so many of us walk around believing exactly that. We live trapped in this cycle of achievement and validation, terrified of failing because we think failure will expose us as not enough. But failure teaches us something success never can. It teaches us that we are more than enough even when we fall short. In fact, it's often in those moments of falling that we discover our truest selves. Because when the applause fades, when the trophies collect dust, when the promotions slip away, what's left? You, the essence of you, and that essence. Your heart, your humanity, your spirit. That's where your real worth lies. I want you to imagine for a second a newborn baby. That child hasn't achieved a single thing. They haven't won awards, they haven't built businesses, they haven't hit milestones. And yet, when we look at them, we know instinctively that they are valuable beyond measure. Their worth is undeniable. Somewhere along the way, though, as we grow, the world convinces us that worth has to be earned, but failure reminds us of what's true, that our worth is inherent. This is why some of the deepest growth comes after loss. When we fail, when things don't go according to plan, we have an opportunity to redefine the way we see ourselves. Instead of asking, "What have I done?" we get to ask, "Who am I becoming?" Instead of saying, "I am what I achieve," we begin to say, "I am valuable, period." That shift is powerful because it frees us. When you stop measuring your value by achievements, failure loses its sting. You're no longer destroyed by the fall because you know the fall doesn't define you. And success becomes sweeter, lighter, because you're not clinging to it as proof of your worth. It's just part of the journey, not the measure of your identity. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing worth through achievement, you actually become more courageous, more creative, and more willing to risk failing again. Why? Because yourself. Worth isn't on the line anymore. You're free to try, to experiment, to stretch yourself, because you're not terrified of what failure says about you. You already know who you are, with or without the win. So yes, success may build confidence, but failure gives you something even greater. It gives you the chance to untangle your worth from the endless chase of achievement. It teaches you to stand in your own value, no matter what the scoreboard says. And that's what makes failure such a profound teacher. Because when you've lost, when you've stumbled, when you've felt like the world has stopped believing in you, you get to make a decision. Will you keep tying your worth to outcomes, or will you claim the truth, that you were worthy all along? That truth is unshakable. It cannot be taken by failure, and it cannot be inflated by success. It just is, and once you know that, really know it, you'll never be the same. Because the moment you redefine your worth beyond achievement, you stop living to prove yourself and start living to be yourself, and that right there is the gift wrapped in loss. There's something almost mystical about the way failure works in our lives. At first, it feels like destruction, like something we cherished has been shattered, like the ground beneath us has been pulled away. And in those moments, it's natural to grieve, to resist, to ask, why me? But if we stay with it, if we lean into the discomfort instead of running from it, we begin to notice something stirring beneath the rubble. Transformation. You see, success rarely forces us to change. It's comfortable, it validates what we're already doing, but failure demands that we transform. It leaves us no choice but to confront the parts of ourselves we've outgrown. It forces us to shed old patterns, old beliefs, old versions of who we thought we were. It strips away what isn't working so something new can emerge. Think about the seasons. Winter looks like death, bare trees, silent fields, everything still. And yet, beneath that stillness, life is preparing. Roots are deepening, seeds are waiting, spring cannot come without winter. In the same way, transformation often requires a season of loss. The fall, the failure is the winter, and the person you become because of it, that's your spring. The truth is, some of the greatest turning points in life come disguised as endings. You lose a job and it feels devastating, but that loss pushes you toward a path you'd never have dared to take otherwise. You go through heartbreak and the pain cracks you open, but in that breaking, you discover strengths, depths, and desires you didn't even know you carried. The failure doesn't end you, it remakes you. What makes failure such a profound teacher is that it doesn't just change your circumstances. It changes you. It expands your capacity to see differently, to feel more deeply, to live more authentically. And sometimes it even gives you back to yourself. Because let's be honest, how many of us get caught living lives built on other people's expectations? We chase careers because they're safe. We chase approval because it feels good. We climb ladders that were never ours to climb, and then failure comes like a storm, tearing it all down. Painful, yes, but in the clearing, you can finally see what's real, who you are, what you want. What matters, that's the hidden gift. Failure doesn't just teach, it transforms. It hands you back your life, not the one built on illusion, but the one aligned with truth. It gives you the courage to start again, not as the old you pretending to have it all together, but as the new you, honest, resilient, and free. And here's the beautiful irony. The things you think failure takes from you often aren't losses at all. They're layers being peeled away, masks being removed, roles being released. What you're left with is raw, unpolished, and real, and in that rawness, transformation begins. So when failure comes, and it will, don't just ask, what have I lost? Ask instead, what is life inviting me to become? Because failure is not the final word, it is the invitation to evolution. If success is the applause, failure is the silence where you find your true voice. If success is the mountaintop, failure is the valley where you gather the strength to climb again. If success is a finish line, failure is the rebirth of the runner inside you. Transformation is never easy, but it is always worth it, because in the end, failure doesn't define you, it refines you, and what you gain is not just resilience or wisdom. It's a deeper sense of yourself, the self that no failure can break and no success can fully capture. That's why, when we look back on our lives, it's not just the wins we're grateful for. It's the losses too, because they are the moments that turned us, shaped us, transformed us into who we are today. And so the gift wrapped in loss is this: failure is not the opposite of success. It is the doorway to becoming.